So welcome everyone to the new BHSD Timeliness tool training for county staff. My name is Chris Lee. I work for the Analytics and Reporting Division, the EHR team, and I will be reviewing the form with you. Who I have here with me is also Stephanie Tran, who is also part of the A&R Division EHR team. And I also have Veronica Marquez and Sandy Mendoza, and they are from QI helping with questions also. So with the BHSD timing tool, I want to start with, what is it? So overview of it is that this tool is a recently implemented instrument designed for monitoring client referrals and submitting client services information to the state, so CSI. Things to know. There should be only one BHSD timeliness tool per episode. This also means that there should be one form completed for every referral, even though not all referrals result in an admission. The tool replaces the referral disposition and CSI assessment form. The timeliness tool can be edited. The timeliness tool is a required form that is required data for the state. The tool is also built with event logic. Depending on the selections made in one field, other fields may become enabled or disabled. The job aid, which is what I'm sharing right here, explains all that. And also, I will be reviewing some of the logic that is within the form. There is also an ability to unselect a previously selected button, which is the F5 key. Once again, I will show that during training, how that works. The form also has particular yes or no required fields. If not applicable, then you can select no. The implementation of this form. So as of June 1st, that's when you begin completing, that's when this form will be implemented, and you will cease the completion of the CSI assessment form. June 1st is the implementation date. Of course, emails will be coming out to make sure that staff is aware of this switch. With that said, are there any general questions before we start to review the form? Okay. All right, we'll get right onto the form then. So I have the form pulled up in Avatar pulled up. So to navigate, I know that everybody here should know how to navigate, but just in case, I have a client selected. You can search for the form here. Select. Select the program that will be in. I will just select PERT just for now. And this is the form. So I'll start from the top left. What you have here is date of first contact to request service. So for example, it could be a family member walking into a center. So if that walk-in occurred on April 1st to request services, that will be the date here. What you can also see on this form is what currently is required. As the logic changes, as you enter information, different fields will become required. But as you see on the form as it is now, these are the required fields in red. So for example, as a family member walked in, so the referral source, before your referral source, once you enter the date, it will say the accessible referral for non-psychiatry is the client having been rendered a first follow-up service. So it's kind of explaining what the successful referral looks like. You click OK. You click on referral source. There's a number of different options. Select the one that best fits. If other referred is selected, the referral resource reason specified if other referred becomes required. So you have to enter something here. For our example, we already said that as a family member. So we'll go back up. Family member is not required. The point of access. So where did they coming from? If it's from, this is something, if it's coming from the call center, the courts, the FCS, etc. You select the one that best fits. For our example, I said it was a walk-in, so I will select walk-in. Once again, if other referral source is selected, you just specify what the other was. For our example, I will say walk-in. If there is an IST number that's connected to this, if it's appropriate, you can select the IST number. For this example, I don't have an IST under this pretend client, so there's nothing here. But if there was, you would see it, you will be able to select it. You move on then to the first service appointment offer date. So we know that this referral came in on the 1st. We can say that the first service appointment that we offered them could be on the 5th. And because everything always works out so well, they also accepted the appointment, and the appointment was actually rendered on the same date. The reason we have a render date is that sometimes we can offer a service, but then they could not accept it for whatever reason. So we have to, whenever the appointment actually happened is the render date. Was access to services delayed? So this is asking, was it delayed? The definition for this question is the date of first contact greater than 10 business days, including holidays, so it does not include holidays or weekends, is it greater than 10? If the date of first contact and offer is greater than 10 business days, then yes, access to service delayed. For our example, you'll see that it was less than, so then it is no. If we'll say that this was the 15th, right? The 15th, that was, I'll be saying 25th. If we say the 25th is definitely greater than 10 business days. So then if this was greater than 10 business days, you would have to select yes. And you will list, you see this becomes this field becomes required. And you would choose the answer that best fits. If it's beneficiary choice, or these three notes, if it's treatment modality unavailable, preferred behavioral health provider unavailable, preferred service medium unavailable, no available provider, or other. If you select other, we want to specify what the other is. Now for our example, as I said, it is a nice, smooth opening as we were able to offer services. So this is where I want to show how do you unselect. So you see, you can't unselect, right? That's a difficulty. So how you would do it is that you would click on other, for people who don't know, and then you would look at your keyboard. There is a F5 key. You click I5, it'll unselect. I want to change this was access to service delayed. I'll click no, and we'll continue. Before I continue, are there any questions? Okay, great. I'm hoping, oh. Actually, I see a hand is raised.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I am
Steph.
going to unmute Lorena. Thank you. Two questions. Date of first contact, is that when they call usually referrals come through the call center, and I want to just confirm this. Is that the date that we put there or when we receive the referral in our CC inbox?
It it is the date that they call the call center.
The call center. Okay. And then the IST, if it comes from the call center, will it be populated?
That's correct. So if
Okay.
it comes from the call center, that's correct. Then you would see the number here and you can select it.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. Are there any other questions?
So Ellen, I'm going to unmute you.
Hi, Chris. So I work with the FDR collaborative courts, and once a client hits the Jack list, that would be the date from there. The provider has 10 days to get the client out of custody and into treatment. And we track that because there are some reasons why the client might be delayed. I'm just wondering if there's been any meetings with the collaborative courts or FDR about how to fill out this form.
I will have to pass that question. Veronica?
There hasn't been any specific meetings with the courts about how to fill this out.
Okay.
I actually don't even know if that's been brought up. It's a good question. I will go back and ask Colin, and then I'll send you an email.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I wasn't sure if like maybe our other managers on our team have been part of this and I just wasn't. So I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything, but that would be great. Thank you, Veronica.
Any other questions? Okay. Okay, I'll just keep the questions coming. I appreciate the questions. Yeah. So now that we have identified, we're down here, so we go back up to the top of the form. So now the next question is asking the follow-up appointment. This is a required, as you'll see on here, if it's yes or no. For our purposes, we can say that follow-up did happen, so assessment, everything went well. Now services, it's gonna continue, so we say yes. Then we want to know when was the first follow-up appointment offered date. So when was the first appointment we offered that was a for this? I'll just put the first. Refer to out-of-network provider, yes or no. The answer for this is no. For my purposes, it could be, whatever fits best, fits best. Since we are continuing services, the referral closure reason, closure date is not required. Any additional comments to communicate behavioral health can enter here. And if it was everything worked out as it should, and there was no psychiatric referral, which is below, then I'll be able to submit this form and this form is complete. So for the purposes, of course, of the training, I do want to review what it looks like if there's a referral closure reason. So for example, what if we did the assessment, we did everything here, and there was just no follow-up appointment. So then I would select no. You see automatically that becomes grayed out. You see automatically the referral closure reasons becomes activated. This field here has the most logic built into it. So with that, I want to show what it looks like for each one. So for example, if the beneficiary did not accept any offered appointment dates, you'll see if I select that. certain fields become activated. The one that you might not catch it, the one that becomes deactivated is the first service appointment render date. Because it is saying that beneficiary did not accept any offered appointment dates. So if that is true, then of course, then the rendered appointment date should not happen. All of these are explained in the job aid. So I'll briefly go over each of them. So what if happens if beneficiary accepted offer appointment date but did not attend initial appointment date? Most of it is the same for this, right? It's saying, so the same logic is activated for this. Beneficiary attended initial appointment but did not complete assessment process. So it's saying that there was initial appointment, and of course, then this becomes required. But then this did not happen. Beneficiary attended first service appointment with declined treatment. I'm gonna go over this quickly. Beneficiary did not meet medical necessity criteria. Out of county presumptive transfer. These boxes become not required. Though if so, that could have happened whenever in the process. So that's why you're still at the option to fill out the service that occurred. Or unable to contact. If unable to contact, all the boxes become grayed out. If other, then you specify other. Let's say that beneficiary did not accept offered appointment dates, then you have to put the closure date. I will pause here for questions. I see one question that was asked, and this might be for Veronica. There was a question asked for IST. For this form, if there are multiple IST, does it show all the IST or just the most recent IST? Or is this program specific?
The drop down for the ISTs will show a list of all ISTs. Well, not all, but it will show a list of ISTs that exist for applying.
Okay, thank you.
Lorraine, I'm gonna unmute you.
Sorry. One more question. How long do we have to complete this IST? Is it the initial week? Because we can offer an appointment, but it won't, let's just say it happens within, as many referrals we're getting right now, it could happen, let's just say the month after. Just an example. Would we keep it blank until we have all the information, or what would be the direction that we take?
I want to make sure you ask me. You said IST. Do you mean completing this form, right? You're saying the timeliness.
Oh, so yes, sorry, the tool.
No,
Yes.
just want to make sure.
Yes.
So the form is made that once you submit it, you can it's like the CS is I believe it's like the CSI assessment. You can continue to edit as needed.
Okay.
Unless I don't know, Veronica, do you guys from QI's perspective, is there how you want the clinics completing this form, like a timeline?
The process for how you complete it, if you do it all at once or you go back in and edit, would be up to you. The expectation that we have with this timeliness reporting in general is that it is filled out within, like currently the process that everyone's doing is using a spreadsheet and you fill out last month's. In this month, you fill out for last month's referral. So we wouldn't want it to go beyond that. It should be a live entry as you're going through, but For workflow purposes of how you do it at your clinic and your location, that would be up to you and your managers or staff on when and how it's all completed. We have had from our piloting, it's been piloted by some of our CCPs and some of our county clinics. But some of like the CCPs would prefer to do it all at one time. Some have mentioned that they prefer to go in and then complete what they can and then come back and do it. So that's completely up to you. It's kind of a workflow thing because then you have to remember to go back and complete it. And I know further in the training we'll talk about error reports, but that report, there's a report that exists that you can run to see what has not been completed.
Mhm.
But we're going to be talking about that.
So it's submitted as a draft or it's submitted as a final, like, or doesn't matter? Or
This one
does
is
it?
just submitted,
Okay.
the draft or final.
Okay.
But some instances and workflows about when certain things occur in the form that we would take as final. But again, that's just depending on what you fill out as options when everything else is filled out.
Okay. Thank you.
Iris, Carolina, I'm gonna unmute you.
Hi, just for clarification purposes, is the IST number the integrated screening tool number?
That's correct.
Okay, and then is that number auto-populated or how do we, I guess I'm just wondering how we get that number.
If there is an IST,
Oh, okay.
it will, yes, it will auto populate here.
I see.
It's for this example, this is a pretend client and so I did not create an IST number.
Okay, so this is if it came from the call center.
Correct. Yeah, if it was from the call center, there will be an IST number down here that you will be able to select.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Okay. So what I did was, as we were answering questions, I kind of just changed it back so I can be ready to submit the form. Though what I want to move on to next, though, is for this example, besides having a general referral to receive behavioral health services, there was also a referral for psychiatric services. So if there was a referral, we will have to go down to the section below here and answer the questions here. First is the data request for psychiatric services. So we can say that this was requested middle of April. A successful referral psychiatry is client completing the assessment process and continuing psychiatric services. Click OK. Now we have to note the first psychiatric appointment offer date. You see that becomes required once we have entered that there was a request for services, psychiatric services. The first psychiatric appointment offer date, let's say that it was a little bit a month over. And they were able to accept that. Oh, I cannot do that because that's in the future. Say today, date. And they were able to take the appointment for today. So the rule for psychiatric services is was access to a psychiatric appointment delayed is 15 business days. So 15 business days, that's excluding holidays and weekends. Now, I'm not doing the math exactly, but this has to be greater than 15 days. So with that, I say that access to psychiatric appointment was delayed. You click no. Of course, none of this is required. Reason for delayed psychiatric appointment. But for this example, it was greater than 15 days. So I would select yes and explain which one fits best. Was a treatment modality unavailable, preferred behavioral health provider unavailable, preferred service medium unavailable, no available provider, or other. If other is selected, fill out other. For our example, we'll say that they could not receive the doctor that they want, so they were waiting for that waiting for the specific doctor that they want to see. So it was beneficiary choice. Next is refer to our network provider, yes or no. Still within county, so I was like, no. Let's scroll up. Since services continued, if services continue, as it said when this pop-up came up, then these questions are not required to be answered. Though, if any of this is true, then you go down it, through it, and the logic is in the job aid that will be shared. So beneficiary did not accept any offered appointment dates, you select that. Then of course, then that means that there was not a rendered appointment. You do have to select the closure date. You have to enter closure date down here. Beneficiary accepted offered appointment date, but did not attend initial appointment. You need to enter the closure date. Beneficiary attended initial appointment, but did not complete assessment process. Beneficiary attended first psychiatric appointment, but declined treatment. Beneficiary did not meet medical necessity criteria. Was out of county, presumptive transfer. Unable to contact. Or other. It will basically will navigate to what you will need to complete if any of the closure reasons occur. For our purposes, there was no closure. So I can undo this by clicking other and clicking F5. I have to re-enter all of this because what the logic of, if anybody's caught it, if I enter a date here and I said unable to contact, of course, then that should have happened. So it kind of grays it back out and makes it disappear. A lot of these logic is made so that it will prevent data entry error, and hopefully for end users, it'll make it easier for you all to know what you have to fill out on the form. I'm going to enter again today's date, additional comments if you want to communicate anything else to behavioral health. And that is the end of the form. Are there any questions?
I'm gonna unmute Tiffany. No.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I think you went, Chris, you went through something. I couldn't hear you very well earlier. I have two questions. You say something about before putting in the date for the first psychiatric appointment, something had to be completed. I read it to say here something about the clinician assessment were completed. Can you go back to that again?
I'm sorry. Are we still in the psychiatric services section or is this a different
Correct.
section? Okay.
Yes. But before you enter the date, you say something about something had to be completed before that appointment is offered.
Oh, so if we go back to, I think this is what it is. So before an offer date can be entered, there has to be a date of request for psychiatric services. So there should be a referral that was made before that psychiatric appointment offer date occurred.
Okay, I'm sorry, maybe I'm not being clear. A referral has to be made. What do you mean by that? Like a written referral or what? What does the referral look like? Is it the call center or is it the clinician at the clinic or what is it?
Veronica, can you jump in on this one?
Yes, the data request for psychiatric services is just when the client requested, whether it's through their clinician, requesting service, or the clinician is making the request for the client to be seen. for psychiatric services. So it's not an official like coming through the call center referral. It's just a request for psychiatric services because the client could already be in treatment, receiving services somewhere, and then there's a determination made that they're in need of psychiatric services. So it could be at any point in time that a request is made for the client to receive services, psychiatric services specifically.
Okay, so the request, Veronica, just so I'm clear, has to come from the clinician?
There's no clarification that says specifically from the clinician because it would, I guess that's a workflow thing, Dr. Ho. It could be that the clinician is determining that the client needs it and they're going to request for psychiatric services. It could be the client is requesting. But I guess that the workflow of how they're going to get the services, I wouldn't know how that referral, that connection is made specifically. But so that the date though for the date of request would be when either the client requests or the clinician is determining that there's a need and is going to request the services.
Okay, so I
Hope
think
that-
we have to be clear, right? Because sometimes the client call the call center and they may say, I want to see a psychiatrist. That could be one day, or maybe they just call the call center and they just say, I have mental health issues, I need help. And then they go into the clinic, they see the clinician, then the clinician talk to them, then they think, okay, yes, this client needs psychiatry. Then they would make the request for psychiatry. That makes the second scenario seems clearer to me, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And then so that's good. And then so the second question I have is that is there a way you guys can build in some logic so that the clerical staff doesn't have to do math? Because 15 days is 3 weeks, business days, right? And so if you enter April 15, can the system just calculate it to see if it's meeting the access standard or not? Or are you expecting admin staff to be picking out a calculator and figuring this out every time?
Yeah, we tried to do that, Dr. Ho. There's some issues with that calculation in there. So we couldn't do it. We had it in our Excel sheet and it calculated for us, but in this part they can't do it. So expectation is that whoever's filling out is going to have to calculate that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We
So you know how in my avatar you can do like T plus 10, T plus whatever, right? Time plus dates. So I guess okay, well, it is what it is. So I assume that this is something that the admin staff, the front desk staff will be doing, filling out this form.
That is going to be up to each clinic how they're going to handle it. We had that, and some people wanted clinicians, some people wanted their front office staff. So we're not making that determination. It's going to be a clinic by clinic course. But if it continues the way some of the process we were doing before, I believe it's the front office staff that were filling out the spreadsheet.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ho, for your question. Any other questions? Okay, with that, we have the entire form completed. You would just go up to the top, click submit. And what I want to show you now is what does it look like when you go back in? We were discussing that you can go back and edit the form when needed. So I'll select the test client again, the tool, the program that we are in. And here, I know it's probably small for some of you, but it shows the form that we just completed. And within this form, what you can do now is that you can click on the form, you can click edit, and you go right back into the form. What else I want to show, one last thing I want to show is that we do have a timeliness tool error report. which will be shared with you. It is 7598 timeliness tool error report. You select that, you can type it in. You can type it in by just a number, it'll give you a number. You can enter the first contact or request services, so whatever month you want to look at. This could be a manager to check the completion, or whoever needs to complete to check this. You put the start and end date. You select the program. You can, oh, let me just do this first. You can select multiple programs. Once you have selected your program, you hit process. Due to this being recorded, I will not hit process. I do not want to grab any PHI. But once you have it, once it's ran, and once you export to Excel, the report will look something like this. You'll see that we already redacted some data. How you will look at this report, review this report, is that each column is a field within the form. What you are, and each line is a form completed within that month that you ran the report. You scroll, and what you're looking for is anything that says missing. So for this particular one, there was a first service appointment render date error. For some reason, that data became missing. So you'll go back over and you would have all the information you need to know that's redacted here of what episode, name of client, and everything. Go back into form build to correct that information. And that's basically the error report. So with that, I want to share that once again, that the job aid, which is here, has all the information that I just trained for the tool. We also have this recording that will be shared also for individuals that could not attend the training. We do have one more county training scheduled for next week. And all this information will be shared by latest end of next week. The tool will be implemented, the BHSD Timeliness tool will be implemented June 1st. And then that's when we'll cease the completion of the CSI assessment tool. Are there any final questions?
I'm gonna unmute you, Roberto.
I have a question. Was there a report developed that would track referrals that are not accidentally entered into or filled out? For example, if you get a referral, and because at this point we're depending on the clinics to enter the information on this new tool, but what happens if the clinic oversees one of the referrals and doesn't enter the information? Is there a report to run to track referrals that have been assigned to a clinic that don't make it onto this form?
Good question. Veronica, is there anything in development? Or is there anything that we have for that?
There is not currently.
I think we can, I think we can note it down as something that makes sense that we could develop. So we'll have to note it down, Roberto.
Okay, it would be ideal because at this point, there might be some referrals that are not going to reflect the data correctly because the clinic either forgot or it just they overlooked it for some reason. So I was hoping you guys had some type of validation.
Some type of validation that when there's something opens that if the
Yes.
BHSD timeliness tool is not, will somehow, there will be some kind of
Correct.
check that will come up saying like, oh, this was not completed.
Correct. Because otherwise at that point, you're just missing data and
Mhm.
it's not reflective of.
Yes, we definitely bring that back up to the team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Ho has a question. Okay, Stephanie, I'm gonna unmute you.
Hi, this is Stephanie. My question is, there's times when the referral that comes on the IST might mention my clinic, but it's not my clinic. There's a lot of central in the name of clinic. So like once a month almost, it seems like I get a referral for somebody who's not me. So I don't always know about those. And sometimes the only way I was finding out about them was with the roster or the listing that came. So I guess that's my point. I tried to put stuff in the chat is how am I going to know about those types of referrals? Because I can run reports on what pre-admit episodes I have, but that's going to exclude those kind of errors.
And Stephanie, I'm sorry, I'm not following very well what you're asking to. It might be it's something that I have not dealt with.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, like Veronica can tell you, or Sandra looking at my sheets,
Mhm.
is the call center makes an error.
Mhm.
And they put down on the IST that they referred it to central treatment, central outpatient, which is me. But it really should have been CBC or central wellness. If you read the text of the IST itself, the intention really was not for it to come to central, but they made a mistake. And on the IST itself, they put down central treatment.
Mhm.
Okay. So a lot of times I wasn't finding those or picking those up because I didn't know about them until it came time and it came on the spreadsheet. So if we're not going to get the spreadsheet anymore, then how am I going to be able to know that those errant or error ones are out there?
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for explaining that, Stephanie. So it sounds like what I'm hearing is that there is a report that for the
There's a
your
referral report,
there's a
but
mhm.
I tried to get access to it and I was told that it was only at this time only A&R had access to that report.
Okay.
So I know it exists, but it's an access thing.
Okay.
So I know Roberto in the chat asked about that too. So, maybe it's time to free that report up. I'm just saying. I
Okay.
mean,
Definitely and I don't know all the details of who and why has this access to this report. I'm not also tracking the chat, but we'll track down our end and then we'll see what we can do. Seems like we just want to make sure that we are being able to catch errors. That's what we want to make sure we're doing. So we'll make sure we'll look into that after this too.
okay, thank you.
Of course.
Dr. Ho has.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, Dr. Ho.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering, Rachel Rachel, I think Rachel told me that we have the state is expecting us to have a clearer plan with regards to timeliness standards for psychiatry. I think she just emailed me this yesterday. Is this tool gonna address that need that the state is wanting us to provide more data?
Dr. Ho, I don't know. I can check with Rachel and get back to you on that. I know that this does help with the reporting of what we're doing that's in specific to what Rachel sent you. I just have to check with her and I can email you separately.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right, any final questions? Okay, the last thing I want to share, I don't know if I've shared yet, is that I want to make sure everyone knows who they contact if they have questions. I will have Stephanie paste into the chat for general questions. For general questions, there will be a contact QI, and we'll paste the QI email address regarding the form. For any technical, my avatar, something's not functioning correctly, technical questions, then you can email the AHR team, which is AHR help. And with that, I want to thank you everyone for joining, and I hope everyone have a great rest of their day.